My film True Things stars Ruth Wilson and Tom Burke, and it's the story of a young woman who's in a bit of a rut in her life, who embarks on what you could describe as an affair. It's about a relationship which you look back on and think, what happened? Yes, the film is adapted from a book. The feeling that was evoked in the book was this feeling of being consumed by someone, of your mind defaulting to this person, of them derailing you in some way. But also there were aspects of the book that I felt I had to take away because they overwhelmed that part of the book. So it was really sort of whittling away to the core of this idea that appealed to me and that I connected with, and that I felt was very universal in that it's very common, that I feel hasn't been portrayed in this way. I don't think this story has been told, genuinely feel this story hasn't been told in this way. I am lucky enough to have a fantastic cast, Ruth Wilson and Tom Burke, who are also not only fantastic individually, but I think an incredible kind of tour de force when together. The character of Kate is interesting because in her own idiosyncratic way, she's very strong. You might not realize that about her at first, but she's also funny, and she's also incredibly driven, although you might feel she's being pushed about. And that was something that those elements were very important to me and Ruth to capture that. It was also interesting working with Tom because he's playing someone that isn't 100% altogether behaving well. So discussing with him the complexities of his character and why he doesn't always behave in a good way was really fascinating. And it was interesting how Tom struggled to connect with those parts of him, but ultimately did an amazing job, I think, of understanding him and portraying him in a very three-dimensional way. It was interesting working with them both and directing them together, because I often wanted to or needed to kind of take them off into their own corners, because my perspective on each of them was probably not the same as their perspective on the other person, and my perspective on the situation as a whole wasn't always we weren't always in agreement. But what I said was, I don't think we have to agree actually on the truth of the situation. We all have to have our own interpretation, and you guys have to play that with conviction. And it's for me to know in my mind what I think the whole thing, what I think lies beneath it, what I think the subtext is, or the deeper psychological impulses of the characters are. The film is shot in Ramsgate predominantly, and then also goes to Spain. I was sent off by my producer quite early on to find somewhere to shoot. He said we need to kind of pin it down. So I went off on the train on my own around the coast, which was quite bizarre, sort of traipsing through a really hot summer, looking at various seaside places. And what I loved about Ramsgate was it has a kind of harbour, and it has these great arches, and it has, I don't know, quite a unique feel because it's a seasidey place, but it doesn't have slot machines and fish and chips in the same way that a lot of places have. So I felt like it was a little bit different to what I'd seen before, which is obviously you're always striving to find something that feels unique to your film, a world that feels unique. We also slipped off to Spain between lockdowns, so that was fortuitous. I hope that an audience goes into True Things, into the cinema, into the darkness, and forgets the outside world, and is really drawn in somebody else's headspace, and then kind of gets spat out at the end, and is fired up to discuss the story and maybe debate. Hopefully, it leads to debate and recollections of one's life and the paths you've taken.